Who's first?
Sorry. Yeah, that's fine. You said you were going to be fast. Two of us.
Okay.
I'm gonna talk at the beginning for like 2 minutes, and then I'm gonna just I'll just give him the mic.
Or there's also a hand mic right here.
Yeah, there's one.
Do you
Okay,
audio?
I'll use that, and you can clip on this since you'll be talking a lot longer.
Chris, you should have mentioned you also have an Android app.
I did.
You did.
You did? Okay, I really missed it. I'm sorry.
We don't have a Windows Phone app.
Okay, sorry.
How dare you?
How about BlackBerry?
We don't.
Yes, we do. We do.
Put that in and big little knob there.
Was that the cats?
Well, we can also feed it.
Yeah, that's the one. Okay.
Hello, everybody. I'm Brian McGurko, and this is Mikhail Jacob,
Hi.
who's a current master's student, incoming PhD student for next year. And this is our work on computational representations of play. So previous work that I've been doing in the Atom Lab for several years with Mark Rydell has been focused on understanding co-creative narrative experiences, particularly within the realm of digital improvisation. So understanding both how people in the real world, practitioners, create stories together on stage, as well as formalizing that understanding to AI-based representations to create digital media experiences that allow humans to co-create stories with the computer. While this work has resulted in some really interesting findings, it has some serious limitations in terms of focusing on kind of this modality that you have to be an expert to be able to really appreciate, to be able to be engaged in. So not all of us are improvisational actors, very few of us are in the world. So from this work, we've been looking at what is it about co-creation of stories that is more present in our everyday life. And what we've looked at in the past year plus has been on the notion of play, on how we engage with each other as members of society in playful behaviors, specifically within the context of pretend play. Pretend play can be very relevant to digital applications like in virtual agents, in elderly care, in peer learning or in the classroom, or even in providing playmates for kids who don't have access to healthy or common narrative-based play experiences. So our work is very much focused on both understanding the knowledge and processes that are involved in pretend play, all the way from children on up in terms of age, as well as how to create virtual representations or computational representations of those playful behaviors that allow these kinds of domains to be reached computationally. And Mikhail is going to talk about the beginning of the work that we've done on this.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Can you guys hear me? Presumably. So I'll be talking about the focus of our work in the play project, which is pretend play. Pretend play or fantasy play is the creation and enactment of scripts and roles. These scripts and roles are taken from a variety of sources, such as television, fairy tales, storybooks, etc., and even personal experience. Once these roles and scripts have been created, they are then playfully reenacted by the players for some intrinsic reward. Within the numerous pretend play activities, we have focused on pretend object play, which is basically pretend play dealing with objects or toys. An example would be driving a block of foam over a play mat along the image of a road, pretending to drive that block as a car. Our work on pretend play uses the theory of conceptual blending, which is the blending or mixing of different concepts into a single blended concept having characteristics from both the parent concepts and certain emergent properties that arise out of the conceptual blending process. The example on screen basically shows a blend between a cardboard tube and a sword in an interesting way. There are two main kinds of script blending that we've seen. One is activity or script blending, and the other one is object blending. I'll show you an example of script blending, which is mixing elements from different scripts into a single novel script.
This man right here is my great-grandfather. He's the first cat herder in our family.
No audio? Okay.
Herding cats. Don't let anybody tell you it's easy.
Anybody can herd cattle. holding together 10,000 half-wild short hairs, well, that's another thing altogether.
Being a cat herder is probably about the toughest thing I think I've ever done.
I got this one this morning, right here, and if you look at his face, it's just ripped to shreds, you know?
Well, as you can see from that video, this interesting blend has taken elements of cattle herding, such as driving large numbers of animals long distances, and the experience of owning a cat, such as getting scratched in the face, together in an interesting way. Later on, there's also an example of brushing lint off your coat, which I guess everyone could identify with. The focus of my work in particular has been along object blending, which is used more in pretend object play. Object blending is basically substituting real objects or toys for these pretend objects that you are pretending to play with during pretend object play. An example on screen would be this blend between a set of blocks and a pretend tank. This particular blend shows that the blended object has the look and feel of a set of blocks while maintaining the abilities of a pretend tank, such as being able to blast your enemies in a pretend, with pretend shells and so on. We also use the Lakovian view of concepts as having prototypical examples with specific instances of concepts having a graded membership into that concept set. Prototype theory is highly compatible with our usage of fuzzy logic, which in addition allows us to calculate iconicity mathematically. Iconicity, as we define it, is a data-driven way of representing the uniqueness of attributes that describe concepts. In this example, Superman is taken as a prototypical example of superheroes. In general, we know that superheroes have superpowers, and they save lives and fight crime. We also know that emergency responders and the police fight crime and save lives. However, we don't call them superheroes. Therefore, this attribute of having superpowers is said to be unique or iconic to superheroes. Our object blending algorithm has three main steps: filtering, selecting, and blending. Taking this example, let's say the system wants to play with a pretend car. The system would blend this with the available real objects, which would include, for the purposes of our example, a toy car, a toy soldier, and a comparably sized block of foam. The system would basically filter out the objects that violate hard constraints for that particular play context. In this case, it would filter out the toy soldier because it is too small to be driven by the robot. Next, the system would select the closest matching object from the available objects using a Euclidean distance metric over all the source object's attributes in comparison to the target object's attributes. The toy car would be selected in this example, as it is really close in terms of attributes to the pretend car. Finally, the algorithm would blend the toy car with the pretend car, resulting in a blended car, which would retain the properties of the toy car, such as the look and the feel, and as well as retaining the iconic ability of being drivable from the pretend car. We are currently developing a work in progress, turn-based pretend object play demonstration using Simon the robot from Dr. Andrea Tomas's lab. Simon will demonstrate the most appropriate object substitution, both while presenting its own playful actions, as well as while recognizing playful actions presented to it by a human. Building off our work in the computational representations of play and from the digital improv projects, we are currently formalizing and architecting a narrative-based co-creative cognitive architecture for use in open-ended task domains called COCO. We would like to thank GVU for the GVU Innovation Grants, without which this work would not have been possible. Thank you all. So, questions, anyone? Comments, etc.? Alrighty.
Are you going to have any demos coming up next week?
Yeah, we won't be demoing this thing. Our lab will have some other demos, but we are actually quite close to having a working prototype on the robot. It's just that due to the limitations of having to work on a robot, it's taking a bit of time. So, yeah.
We will be demoing next week, though, an example of movement-based co-creative performance. It's called VI, and it's focused on formalizing movement theory from contemporary theater in a way to do gestural interactions with an intelligent agent.
We talked to Carly Hampton about applying this to deaf kids.
No.
Right. Take a look.
Okay.
Cool.
He's next to Thad's office.
Right on.
All right.